Yeah, we're like,
All right, it is 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting in order. If we could rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, Ms. Atchison.
here.
Mr. Bray. Here. Mrs. Brimmer.
Here.
Mr. Conley is excused tonight. Mr. Hall. Here. Mr. Hopkins. Here. Mr. Lawrence is also excused. Mr. Owens is here. We have Mr. Johnson, our city planner, Mr. Womack, our city manager, and Ms. Newland, our clerk. We have two minutes that we need to approve from our April 11th meeting. If you'll recall that in our last meeting we had some discussion on trying to figure something out on there, so I believe that's been clarified in those minutes in your packet. And then also our minutes from our last meeting on June 6th. So whatever your pleasure is, if you want to approve both of those together or individually, entertain that motion. How do you want to do it?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of April 11th, 2017 and June 6th, 2017.
Okay. Is there support for that?
Support.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Okay. All in favor of approving both of those minutes, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. On our agenda, we need to add. We got left off number 7. If we put in number 7 is where we have the report of conflict of interest in any ex parte communication, and that got left off of this agenda. And then from there, everything else would be moved up one number. So 7 becomes 8, 8 becomes 9, etc., etc. So I will make that a motion that we do that on the agenda. Support for that? Support.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda? Anybody sees? Okay, all in favor of approving that agenda with that change, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Thank you. All right. Public comments. Anyone that would like to address the Planning Commission, we would love to hear what you have to say to us. So you can step up to the podium and tell us what's on your mind. Don't everybody rush it at once. Yeah, sign up.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to know, what is this rezoning that they just rezoned a while back? Why are we rezoning this area again?
Which area are you talking about?
The area of yes, that would be Cherry and along this here, isn't that where they're located? Yeah. Mixed use,
Okay.
and also this, yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to have a public hearing on that in just a minute, but just real briefly, Mr. Johnson, you just want to explain to what we're trying to do with that area, and then you don't have to get into too many details because we are going to kind of really hammer it out tonight. But
yeah. Well, the public hearing tonight, which will happen, the next agenda item will be a hearing to change the zoning regulations that apply to that land area that you pointed out.
Yes.
So it's changing the uses that are permitted by adding more uses than are allowed today.
So what are allowed today? I thought it was commercial, industrial, and
That's correct.
residential.
Those uses that would be continued to be allowed. We're
So you're
adding some different uses like small engine repairs not allowed. Buildings or contractor uses for painters or electricians, those aren't permitted right now. And the city has had some requests for those kind of businesses to move into some of those older buildings. And so we're trying to make our rules to be a little bit more flexible to allow those kind of uses to fit into those older buildings that are there. really more permissive than restrictive in this case. It's loosening up the regulations, they're allowing more uses to be allowed to go into those buildings in that area.
All right. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Kenneth Metz, I own Cedar Cycle, small engine repair, 91 West Ash. What's the big thing about can't put stuff in these buildings? I don't know. I mean, you guys want to try to run everybody out of Cedar Springs or just half of them?
Well, I don't know.
That's why nobody comes into town. There's many rules and regulations. I mean, the fellow across the street wants to buy the building, put paint, his paint supplies in there, his equipment. Just hasn't heard, really. He's not leaving stuff in the street. So what's your reasoning for that? I don't understand.
That's why we're making it easier for someone to have to happen. That's what we're changing for allowing this company.
And like Rose said, this got zoned here a few years back. And it's supposed to be been used for anything. Commercial, industrial, residential, what else? What's there left?
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, so we're going to have a public hearing on this in just a second, and then we can weigh in on this, and we can tell you a little bit more about what we're doing, and we can have a little bit more of a dialogue. Right. All right, seeing no other, our new 7 that we inserted in there, if anybody has anything to report on our, looking at, in light of what's on our agenda tonight, any conflicts of interest that you perceive, or any ex parte communication regarding any of those items that you might need to report?
The folks that were here last meeting, listening about changing maybe the mixed use, I talked with them afterwards, just asking who they were, just being friendly. And they said that they were the painters that wanted to move into that building.
Okay.
And so I just, suggested that they come to the meeting, go to the council, and that was all.
Okay. All right. So we'll move to our scheduled public hearing, which is to address that mixed-use amendment. In your packet, on your computer, you got 3 tabs there. The one that has 73 pages in it. If you, this is the information that we're going to look at. It's going to start on page 24 in that packet if you want to scroll down there. But I need a motion to open that public hearing, please.
So, seconded.
All right. Motion to support. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. So now here's where we can answer these questions for you a little bit better. So, Mr. Johnson, why don't you walk us through again kind of an overview of why we need to consider this mixed use in this area.
Okay. For those of you who have not met yet, my name is Tim Johnson. I'm with the Main Street Planning Company. My second meeting for the City Planning Commission, so
Watch his microphone. It's on.
it's working.
Or it's just going down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't hear her either when she was up there.
Well, the reason for the hearing tonight is to consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance. And again, the job of the Planning Commission is to hold a public hearing on this zoning text amendment and then to make a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council will make a final decision to adopt this language or change it or not to not adopt it. The actual ordinance language, which you have in front of you, would change the uses permitted in the mixed-use zoning district. I believe about 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit more, the city passed an ordinance to change the zoning for that property between Main Street and White Pine Trail, where that area is zoned for mixed use. And by mixed use, it allows a broader range of uses than you might find in simply a residential zone or a commercial zone. Uses permitted would be not only single-family houses, but duplexes. Health clubs are permitted, restaurants are permitted, bed and breakfast, apartments, outdoor storage, parking lots, hospitals, banks, mortuaries, trade schools, churches. There are many uses permitted in that zoning district. Now, in the last,
To the chase, anything that yields more money to this city for nothing.
hold on a second. We're going to open it up to comments in a second. You check. The list of uses is pretty extensive, but again, in the last couple of months, the city has been approached by businesses wanting to take over some of the buildings here. The paint contractor was brought up. Contractor yards are now permitted in that zoning district. Even though when you drive through that area, some of the buildings would lend themselves very nicely to that kind of use. There are older buildings, semi-industrial uses in that area, but we had to tell that person, sorry, that zoning district, while it's very broad in terms of the uses permitted, does not permit painting contractors. So with the help of the city manager, we looked at what uses we could expand it to for that area, and we've added things like establishments for the repair of small engines, building contractors for electrical, heating and plumbing, fencing, painting could be uses permitted in that zone, machine shop, tool and die establishments, indoor recreation establishments, and then establishments which produce alcoholic beverages. In other words, you could put a brewery in there as well. Those uses were not permitted. So what the city is doing by holding this hearing, wanting to add these list of uses, they're expanding more business opportunities for the city. Any use that comes in there would still have to come before the Planning Commission for either a special use or simply site plan review. So, as I said before, it's more permissive and restrictive. It expands business opportunities for new businesses. We've already had the painting contractor approach us. If this ordinance goes into effect, they wish to come before the Planning Commission and seek permission to move into that building. So, to me, it's more of a pro-business regulation than anything else. So with that, I would simply ask if the Commission has any questions for me.
We've talked a lot.
Okay. So we'll open up the floor then for anybody that'd like to address that. If you have any questions that we can help answer, or concerns, or comments, this will be the time.
Here I am again. I'm Rose Hunt. He's given us a list of all the people that he can allow in that area. Why can't they just simplify it without putting labels on everything? Is saying anything that'll bring in a tax base to the city of Cedar Springs.
Well, that would be really nice to do it that way, but the way that planning ordinances are written from like the state level, we have to have it specifically listed what is allowed. We can't just say we'll allow everything except this. We have to go through and say specifically these are the things. And before, what we have right now, there's a lot of things that we can't do because they're not specifically listed. So by doing this, we're getting a lot closer to what it is that you're requesting, to being able to allow a lot more to be able to go in there than what we could say yes to.
It's funny because we had a tattoo parlor that was trying to buy a building and refurbish it to support this community. That was totally shut down and told ixnay and you are no longer. I've watched more nonsense go on in this little community in 21 years of how people want to tell us how to run and own our business, but as long as we pay.
Sir, if you'd like to talk to the planning commission, you could wait your time and then speak after this lady's done with it. If not, you might be causing disturbance.
You want your turn up here?
No.
You sure?
Obviously, they're going to run and operate our community the way they want.
So, in other words, everything has to be labeled, everything has to be named, so 5 years down the road, somebody comes up with an idea that's not on this agenda, not on this, then it's got to go through all this again. May I ask, how much does this cost every time you have to change an amendment? Just give me a ballpark.
When we change an amendment,
Well, when you have to change, get a rezone and all this other stuff, how much does it legally cost with all the lawyers and everything else, how much does this cost every taxpayer in Cedar Springs when you have to go through this?
I couldn't answer that question. I don't know exactly, you know, the
It's getting, you know, everything, everybody is, it's pricey.
We don't get paid.
I'm talking about, he's not free.
right? And our city attorney's not free, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right. But I think that, you know,
So it's, you know, we gotta start thinking,
well, and we have, I mean, I'll speak for the planning commission, you guys can stop me if I'm saying too much, but, you know, we just recently, about a year and a half or 2 years ago, we spent a lot of time addressing the downtown district because of the restrictions that were there, and we spent a lot of time putting something in place that we can really throw the doors wide open for businesses to come in this downtown district.
and that's why we have all these empty lots on Main Street.
Well, I'd like for them to be filled, but we've made them.
But it looks pretty.
We've made it as accessible for business as we know how to do it.
But I mean, it's sad. It's just sad,
It is sad, but
you know,
I will
that we have to go through this because somebody didn't word something right.
well, it's not that it's not worded right.
Well, it's not on the list.
Yes. Yeah, we're
I thank you so much for keeping track of that.
Ms. Rollins, want to say anything else?
Not really. I'm just here to listen because obviously it really doesn't matter what I've got to say. I've listened and watched this community do things for too many years, the way it was, or however, and I only see one person up on that board that truly owns a business that has to pay 2 house payments in order to try to make a livelihood here. I watch everyone else fight to try to even stay afloat. And every time we turn around, as Rose puts it, there's just another damn obstacle thrown in our damn way, and we're supposed to just live with it. We're supposed to just make the very best of it. And we're supposed to keep having hope of a brighter future.
Well, we're doing our best.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, as long as you're a bar.
If I may, this committee here, we're stuck with trying to redo what history has set. We're trying to go back and rechange some of these things that put restrictions on this community that the members at that time thought was what they wanted for the community. And, you know, we had a couple decades of individuals that were running this community that their idea of what was best for this community was to keep it small. It was what they wanted for a retirement community. That did nothing for the businesses in this community. Now we have a new planner, we have new members on this committee, that's what we're trying to do, is make it more business friendly. Our new planner that has come on at the last meeting, I don't know if any of you were here for that or seen the videos, but he actually addressed that we need to go back through these ordinances and see what we can do to make these more business friendly. There's a lot of our sign ordinances that are outdated, things that have been changed but never implemented. And that's what we've got to deal with, and that's why we're having this one now, is to amend these things that would not allow these businesses that made no sense for them not to be allowed. But we still have to follow by what state law is, what government law is that oversees what we have. We can't just say, well, any business that looks good can go in there. Because then the first thing you know, well, you've got a nightclub that has adult entertainment in there to come in. If you don't have any restrictions saying you can't have them, it's not in your books. So then you've got to fight that. So you can't just throw out a blanket for everybody that wants to come in, they can be in that section. Because anytime you put in manufacturing, you have to look at how much it's going to increase the traffic flow for that area. And if we just say, well, you're putting in a business that's going to bring revenue, well, then you still have the residents in that area saying, hey, you brought in heavier traffic in this house that I've had. You've never had this much traffic before. My kids are not safe of it. So there's a lot to look at.
I never stopped and going down 2nd Street there. There's
the big trucks and everything, that's a truck road, right? I understand that,
Right.
that's a truck road.
We don't have control over everything, we just have control over ordinances, and we have to do what we think is best for our community.
Darren Cottle, I own 84 West Ash, building your question with painters on the back. I think you're on the right direction, and I want everybody to know that I've already moved just outside of town, and if for some reason you didn't do what it sounds like you're going to do, then you get a building sitting there that's basically worth nothing. It doesn't sound like a permanent needy place for you to go back and do which is what it is now. So just my 2 cents, I guess.
My name's Ron Carter. I am owner of K&A Painting and the one who's interested in Darren's property. And I want to thank you as the board for the work that you're doing to change this multi-use zone and to incorporate new business coming in. And I look forward to, hopefully having this all go through and be able to have our business here in Cedar Springs. As being a lifelong resident of Cedar, I have a little bit of pride coming back, getting into Cedar again. So I want to say thank you for your consideration, and hopefully, as far as the money that you're worried about, the taxpayers paying, as a business we do pay fees
No, this is just, I'm just glad you're.
So I mean, we are contributing a little bit too.
Yeah,
So
I'm hoping that there's that.
so I want to thank you guys and appreciate your
I
time.
want to thank you. I hope everything goes good for you.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody have any more questions for Mr. Johnson on this? Otherwise, a motion to close the public hearing?
Get motion.
Either one? Okay. All in favor of closing that, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, no? Right, in our new business, again, in your packet, it's on page 13, is where you can find the documents that are in there. Mr. Womack gave us a description in his notes, and you can see the how other communities are handling this, but basically, at times that people are coming in and we have certain fees that the city pays, and applicants that maybe decide to go somewhere else or pull out for whatever reason, sometimes they don't pay the bill that reimburse the city for the bill that the city paid. So we need to work on a proposal to collect an escrow from them, from those applicants up front. So tonight we just need to really kind of discuss this. Then plans will have to be finalized, and then we'll go to the city council for them to adopt anything. But anything that you want to weigh in on that, or Mr. Womack to consider?
I just wanted to come up with this sentence.
We had one last year, and thus far we have one this year, but we're talking thousands of dollars, and the city just doesn't plan for that. Neither should we. So we obviously continue to try to collect the debts that people incur, but it becomes exceedingly difficult if their plans fail. They have little incentive to pay their bills at that point. So we're just trying to, there's a lot of business coming into the city, despite what some people might think. And we're doing a lot more work, and we're just trying to make it safest for the city financially to do the kind of building up that we're doing.
And when you say the city, that means us taxpayers.
Ultimately, yes, the taxpayers pay for it, but I think of the city organization itself, because that's what I run. But yeah, ultimately the taxpayers are on the hook for this if the applicants don't pay the bills.
Right, because the city doesn't have any money that we don't already get in the state.
Yeah, we like to spend our money on taking care of the citizens,
Exactly.
not,
Okay.
Any other comments or concerns, ideas on that? Yes, sir.
Well, I look at a number of different communities, and this escrow approach is very commonly used in many townships, cities, and villages where I do. So just let you know, it's not a new idea. It is legal and tested, works, and it does save taxpayers money and requires businesses to, it's a cost of doing business to come into the city and having the plans properly reviewed. So it's a good idea. I would encourage you to move forward.
Yes, Jerry?
Currently, we have a person on site plan, they sign a letter that they will pay additional fees, and that's kind of where we're at. We've had people, a couple of businesses that haven't, and that's why we're requesting the escrow, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, from what I'm looking at in these other townships and cities, you know, what they put into the escrow, what's not used, they get returned, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah, no
it's fine.
interest, I believe it says.
That's the concept of the escrow, yeah.
I just want to know for anybody listening or
Sure.
watching on video, it's not like we're just gonna take their money and,
Yeah, that's inherent in the escrow system. It just makes it safer for the city. They get all the money back that's not spent.
Yeah. What, are we looking for a certain amount that we're recommending, or?
We're still in the planning stages. I want to present to you some of the options that other cities and townships do.
Okay.
I haven't set an amount. I just want to get your input for the city council, because this is technically a planning issue.
Is there an average cost that we're missing?
I was seeing generally $1,500. And frankly, that's about the bill we get stuck with too. But the way the system would work is the applicant would give $1,500 as part of the escrow, and then planning fees, legal fees, engineering fees would come out of that escrow, and there would have to be money added to it if it went below a certain amount, generally $1,000 or $500. They would have to put more money in before more work would be completed.
I think the majority of these examples I've seen here are $1,000, if it goes below 500, they find another 500. And they do it in $500 increments.
$500.
That seems to be a consensus of most of them.
However, if the site plan is complete, there's a probability they will get money back on the application.
Well, they're entitled to all the money that's not spent,
Correct.
and they absolutely would get it. But it's protecting the city for outstanding bills.
The wording of this, is that something you're gonna be working on and provide at a future
I
meeting?
haven't done any writing whatsoever. The only thing I provided you is what other townships and other cities have done.
So you're looking for really come on as a dollar amount type of figure?
Just discussion.
Okay.
9, I guess 6 heads are better than 1 in this instance. And I did you guys come up with this plan on there.
Is there a certain amount of time that this money would be refunded in?
I think generally we have a 1-month lead out of bills that we get from our planner and our engineer and our lawyer. So it'd probably be returned within that time. Of course, we do keep a pretty close relationship with all of our professionals. So we should have a good idea of how much money is coming in a final bill. And we do try to work with people. If they need that money back, we'll work right on it to get it back to them.
Is that something that's going to be stated in that?
I could look at the language of what other people do and see if there is language added. I'm certainly not opposed to it, but there is a problem of, well, we lost a bill 6 months ago, and, you know, but we certainly don't want to hold the money that long.
Right.
I'm not sure putting a time limit on 30 days would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think 30 days might be a little too short.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to be a drop dead date of must give the money back by this time.
Right.
Maybe a recommended guideline.
90 days.
Okay. I personally think there should be something in there.
Well, the city has no intention of keeping anybody's money.
I know that, but I think it would make it easier for somebody to put money in escrow if they have a
Sure.
little more of a timeline after finish.
Will the city be providing the applicant a detailed breakdown of what the money is spent on?
I guess it depends on what you mean by detailed.
Invoices that the city had
Sure,
for
we
planning.
always provide any applicant the detailed itemized breakdown that we receive.
Okay.
You gotta keep in mind that these are professionals that are not under my employ. So I can't force them to do, an itemized list saying, I spent 5 minutes doing this and 5 minutes doing that. Of course, coming from my own professional background, I know that if you spent 5 minutes this, 5 minutes that, and wrote it down, you never actually accomplish any work, so you're doing the building. So we do get itemized list saying, spoke with the, applicant for an hour, spoke on the phone for an hour, that kind of stuff, and we will provide that to an applicant.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. With building contractors, I can't think of the term, but they have to put some sort of a bond when they're gonna build something.
A performance bond, maybe?
Yes. And that kind of saves the person from getting stuck with.
I think this is one of those changes that a small city is going through when it's becoming a bigger city. Like Mr. Johnson said, this is not uncommon. And we're trying to bring some more of the tools that bigger cities are using, because we are hitting a phase where we've got lots of building going on.
And if history serves me well, I know that years past, the city's been stuck with bills from people who just walk away too, so.
Yeah, we have.
All right, well, thank you for your input. I'm sure that we will be seeing more information on that as this gets rolling. Next under our new business is an ordinance to amend what is taking place in some of the residential sections. It's in your notes, but Mr. Womack, you want to just give a real quick recap of?
Yeah, sure. So this is almost kind of a silly change, but I feel it's necessary. Currently, for single-family home residential development, whether it be infill or part of a new development, there is no requirement. In fact, it's the opposite. There's an exemption for any kind of site plan or sketch plan. So, as a zoning administrator, I have to make sure that they do certain requirements. They have to be set off, X number of feet from the edge of their property. They have to have a maximum height of 35 feet, stuff like that. And right now, I don't have the ability to require them to present a map showing me all these elements. It would just make my job easier to have the power to require that. And that's what this change would do. I think somebody would have to provide me a sketch plan showing what they're planning on doing.
What's the difference between a sketch and a site plan?
Sorry?
What's the difference between a sketch plan and a site plan?
My understanding, maybe Mr. Johnson will correct me on this, sketch plan is just more informal. It's akin to what I use for most of the zoning stuff. It doesn't have to be professionally done. It doesn't have a long checklist of required items, but it gives me a better visualization of whether they're going to be able to meet the zoning requirements. Mr. Johnson, do you have something to add to that?
Well said.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
The applicant or the individual could hand sketch on a piece of paper, excuse me, could hand sketch on a piece of paper what their intent is. That's
Yeah,
what I mean.
and that's generally what I get from most zoning things, and that's fine. And I'm going through some of the old forms that we've had historically, and I'm trying to update them because it would make their job easier if I could provide them with a checklist on some of these things. And you guys could keep in mind, as you know, but for the public, the requirements for a fence are different than requirements for an accessory building, which are different from a pool, And so what I really need to do in my free time is put down a checkbox system for when you build a single residential home, this is what the ordinance say you have to do. That way, when they put together the sketch plan, they can, put, well, it's 35 feet from this line, and it's 35 feet from this line.
That's what I was at.
Thank you. That makes sense.
I believe this is the first time I'm showing it to you, and it'll be shown to council first this Thursday. So you guys can wait until next time if you'd like to make a recommendation.
So basically, this is for houses that are being built, right? Because I see it's got under exempt for one for like restructure.
I'm sorry, exempt for what?
Because they don't have to bring like, for some of them it says the sketch plan is required, but it's not showing that it says exempt, which I'm presuming means for the sketch plan is exempt on, like when they're doing expansions and accessories and stuff like that. So you're
Yeah.
just talking that you need them for like when they're building a new house?
Yeah, so this would be a full development of single-family residential, and the primary reason why it doesn't affect enlargements is because I think most of the zoning aspect is where the slab is going to be, where the basement is going to be, the immovable part. And so if I can do that at the inception prior to that being built, it gives me a lot of control over the zoning aspect of it.
Okay, so we will see this again next month, where we'll vote on the recommendation to send to City Council for their approval. All right, moving to our old business, the project at 14141 White Creek, if you'll remember, we moved that from last month to this month because we were waiting to get information from them. Remember, their architect, designer was in here and was going to do some research, and we brought some things for us, and we don't have anything, that nothing has been turned into us yet, so.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. There is I guess would be a 9C now.
Okay.
Micro cannery business at 70 North Main Street. I'm not sure if it was on your paper.
Nope.
You got, I apologize for that.
Yeah.
It's just me giving you guys a heads up that I had a discussion with the individual who wants to put his micro cannery business in the CarQuest building. To expect a site plan and special land use at the August meeting.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's, right there.
Yeah,
I've
right.
written mine out before. So, it was just, giving you some update, that's coming next month.
Okay.
And special land use.
But to follow up on your old business, A14141 White Creek parking lot, yeah, I've had ongoing discussions with that, I believe is an architect. We did provide with a couple of options how we could actually present it. I think the easiest one would be to do a land split and include 40 or so feet onto the southern parcel from the northern parcel. And that should solve his issues. I've also had discussions with both yourself and Mr. Hall regarding this issue. And there may be some movement towards changing ordinances to get away from that. So I think there's a way we can make it so that you can put a parking lot on another parcel, maybe if it's contiguous and adjacent, and that might promote future business growth that way. But I'll be looking into that in the future.
So, I would just, last month we tabled this, but I guess I would just make the motion, we'll just remove it from our agenda until they come back with all of their stuff and we're ready to look at approving that again. So, is there support for that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right, in your packet, page 47 is the sign standards that we looked at, and if you remember, that this is the one where it can just make it a little bit easier for people to calculate the size of their sign. So I think we talked about that quite a bit last month, but we just need to this month make a recommendation to send that to City Council for their approval of that change.
Wasn't we talking about a pavement, making it so that they could have one protruding and one?
No, that's what the square footage, how they determine.
The square footage of the signs.
Okay.
Where's that address?
Page 47.
We got some things bouncing back and forth here, I don't know where they are. Sorry.
This is the one where they can.
Do you want to just remind us?
They could just measure the
Yeah.
front of the building.
Okay, gotcha,
and then come up with
gotcha.
the.
Yep, yep. Gotcha. Okay, yep, I'm there.
Right. Yes, sir.
Just a couple of things I bring to your attention. The new language would allow one or more wall signs on the wall, whereas the current language only allows them to have one. This allows them to have more than one as long as it doesn't exceed the total amount that they give. So it's a little more business, a little more practical. The other thing I would point out or ask your to weigh in on, and that is, we didn't change the language very much in terms of where it says if you're a building with 201 to 400 linear feet, the planning commission can increase the size of the sign up to 150 square feet. Otherwise, they're limited to 100 square feet. But if they have a bigger building, then they can go bigger, subject to planning commission approval. And then if they have more than 400, then they go up to 200 square feet. I guess I would point out a couple things. One, you have discretion then to grant a bigger sign, up to 150 square feet. But if you think that you're never going to change your mind, that will always just default to 150 square feet, then you probably should just put that in there. If you think there'll come a time when you're only going to grant them 130 square feet instead of 150, you should have some criteria in there to guide you, because that's a better lawful defense if you ever get challenged on it. On what basis would you say 130 is better than 150? And you might say, well, our criteria, if you choose to go that direction, we might want to put the criteria in there that would say, it depends on the distance of the building from the street. Is the sign visible based on trees or topography? And what's the proportion of the sign to the building wall? Those are some criteria that I would suggest putting in here. As part of that, if you want to keep that discretion, and if not, if you just want to say, we don't care, you can automatically go up to 150 if you have this big of a building. But if you're not, if you want to sometimes not grant that 150, say 130 or 140, you need to have some criteria to give you some guidance that you can debate that when you're deciding. So I guess I'd throw that out for discussion.
Okay, so then on this thing, would you propose like you would change it where that paragraph that says no case shall a sign exceed, and then we get the except the planning commission may increase the sign based on these criteria? That's where we put it in there?
Yeah, we put it after B, we just say the planning commission shall base their decision according to following criteria. I'd probably put it at the end.
Okay. Okay.
So what would the following criteria be?
Well, like you said, like because of tree coverage or topography.
And that
or,
was enough, do you think?
Well, yeah, there's at least three things I can think of. The distance of the building from the street. And there's a big difference if it's 200 feet back like a Myers or 300 feet, or is it right on the street? Like the minimum setback, in which case 150 square foot sign may seem out of place, even though the building is big enough to hold that sign. You may decide, no, that's too close to the street. And you want to go down to 120 or something. And then simply the distance from the street, the visibility, and the proportion of the sign from the side of the wall. So those are some things I would suggest adding. If I can think of one or two more, I would put it in there. And I can get that to Mike and pass that on to the city council. When it comes back to you for a hearing, we can take it up then. This gives you more protection.
I apologize. This body could make the recommendation to council to have me add these, and then I bring back another one.
any other criteria that you can think of Well, do you like that idea of having that criteria in the first of all?
Yeah.
So anything else that you would like to have added to that as a consideration?
Get it in writing, and then we can review it next month, and then decide there too if we have to tweak it any further.
Okay.
Put it in writing in their language that we can understand.
Since this matter will be in front of the city council in 2 days, we may want to make an official position. And that official position could be, may want to wait on it for another month, or we'd ask the city manager to bring another option. But just something I can report to the city council in 3 days.
All right, so let me, I'll give it a shot to word this. I'll make a motion that we ask for this to not be enacted yet by city council until we get further language from the city manager on clarifying what criteria goes into possibly allowing a larger zone.
Sure.
Would you allow Ms. Newland to,
Sure.
Yeah, good job.
Read that back to me.
Wasn't it, can I ask a question? Wasn't it criteria to not have a 150, only allow 130 or something like that?
No, to allow it to go up to, we have to give rationale why we would go to 150 or 200.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, I wanted to, yeah, okay, yeah. But, I mean, it was under one.
I get it. Okay. So we have a motion, we have support. Any further dialogue on that? Okay, all in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay. All right, returning to our discussion of the public hearing on the mixed-use district ordinance. Again, the same thing. This body needs to make a recommendation to City Council on that ordinance amendment for the mixed-use district. That's on page 15 in your packet if you see it in writing again. Starting at page 50. So what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the mixed-use district ordinance amendment.
Oh, we're not approving it.
I mean,
We're
recommending
suggesting
to
it.
the council.
Yeah.
Support that.
Any discussion?
1 second.
Okay, all in favor of recommending to the City Council to approve this, aye. All opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. All right. Thank you to those of you that weighed in on kind of setting some priorities based on Mr. Johnson's memo of items that we need to address, and we were looking for kind of to create a priority list of which ones we felt we needed to address right away. Again, in your packet, that's beginning on page 58. I don't know, do we get weigh-in from all planning commissioners? Do we need to hear from more?
I think we got 4.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I just didn't have the time this month to organize it.
That now?
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, Mr. Johnson organized it apparently.
This is about as high tech as you're going to get from it.
Okay.
I looked at the information that you have, and I looked at the top 5 each submitted by the commissioners. And maybe I missed, I had like 7 of them, 7 or 8 people.
No, maybe I didn't get them all.
So within the top 5, I added up, and number 5, which talks about amending the zoning ordinance to make sure that houses aren't placed on areas that are planned for future streets. That got 6 votes. Item number 10, which is to update the sign ordinance, got 7 votes in terms of within the top 5. So these are the the top bookends, I guess. Number 11 was to update the zoning map, we had 6 votes, and then 12 was to do a zoning ordinance audit, got 5 votes. So these kind of came to the top in terms of those that responded, within the top 5 that people ranked. This is what I think took me 10 minutes to do this. Maybe more.
All right, so then the plan is to start to put those in our upcoming agendas so that we can start addressing, right?
But you have to decide when you want to start these.
Which one is the top priority
I
to
guess,
do?
I guess the sign ordinance looks like it was the top one, so is there any reason why we couldn't like just put that on next month's agenda and then?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Johnson and I do a lot of the lifting, obviously, for this kind of work.
Right.
And it helps for you guys as policy advisors to tell us which direction and what, because they're kind of generalized ideas.
Right.
Like, so in the sign ordinances, what do you think needs to be changed? So what might be appropriate, and maybe Mr. Johnson's got more experience in guiding these types of efforts, but what I would do is put it on as a discussion item for your next meeting, ask that you guys start thinking about the sign ordinances, and maybe do one topic per agenda. And then, well, some of these might be really easy to do, but the future streets, you know, get corporate right-of-ways exist.
The zoning map is a quick fix.
Yeah, well, the zoning map's actually really important.
Yeah.
We haven't updated since 2007, especially with all the 425 agreement stuff. The reason I don't think it's right for just yet, though, is because we're doing the MU district stuff, and the stuff on the west side of the trail might end up industrial at some point. So maybe hold off on that for a bit, but what I'd like to do is maybe put these on as a discussion item. We'll do some discussing, and then we can come back with work product after we know what policy direction heading you'd like to go.
Hey, why don't we just amend this all?
Sir,
Let's just
sir,
double our damn business downtown taxes. We're the ones that are paying for this downtown business. You don't touch the outside. Yeah, we're the ones that are around. We are the ones that are told how we can and what we can operate.
Sir, there's a public hearing time. If you'd like to discuss or tell the
No,
commission what you would like,
You guys are going to do whatever you want to this community.
You are now
And I'll just put a building up for sale. Obviously, it's going to be.
I apologize for that.
All right. So, yes, so just make sure, everybody, if we're going to have, like, the discussion on the sign ordinances, this between now and next meeting, just kind of keep your eyes open, so you're looking at signs and thinking about, do we need to address this, or, what's the priority, so we can.
So on the sign ordinance, you may have some ideas on what you want to change, but specifically, in terms of the work program that I put out there, was to make sure that your sign ordinance comes into line with the Supreme Court decision in terms of sign content. So that's something I've written from a number of other communities, so I have a sense of working with Mike, what language we can put in there that would meet constitutional law. But as long as you're in there doing some surgery, you may want to add some other things that have been troubling you or that you think needs to change.
I think when I read that, I understood that what you said, that it needed to be upgraded to the state laws for the size of the signs.
It has more to do with the
Content.
content.
For the content, I'm sorry.
And it's a Supreme Court ruling that we're happy with, but in some sense it makes some sense on some level.
Because I think if we get into looking at the sign ordinance over again and again and again.
Well, I guess my thought is just if we're going to have it as a discussion, it doesn't hurt anything for us to address, because we don't want to get to the spot where, like we have with some of these other things that like, things have changed, and the last time we looked at it was 5 years ago. Okay, since we're pulling the sign ordinances out, it doesn't hurt for us to have the discussion on it and just.
I think Perry would like protruding signs.
Well, I'd like to be able to have both, because there's some businesses that were grandfathered in that have both, but anybody that came in with a business after the ordinance, then you can only have one or the other.
A lot of the trees cover up the signs.
Right, so that's what we need to, yeah.
What, do we have something that tells us what we're not in line with as far as constitutional or?
I think that's one of those things where, see, I came from outside of, sign ordinance, constitutionality, legal profession. So I kept up on the criminal and probate and that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be too difficult for me to find a legal primer, read what it says about what the constitutionality of the sign, because right now, and I haven't read the case, but I'd imagine we're probably pretty well in line with it. Because in no way do I, when I'm reviewing a sign, look at the content of it. But again, I will read a primer on it.
Go ahead.
And compare it to what our current law says, and I'll try to write it in such a way that it would be constitutional.
So it's more in the content of what the sign says.
Yes. And again, without having read it, I'd imagine, some city somewhere said, well, you can't use the word sex in, your advertisements. That's, the content of it. Our sign ordinances say, well, it can be this size, and it can be located in this way. They don't say you can't use the word sex.
Okay.
To give a little summary of that has to do with the names that you give certain signs and what the requirements are. For instance, a real estate sign, you regulate real estate signs by size, location, duration, but you also say real estate sign advertises the sale or lease of real estate. So you are telling somebody what has to be on that if you're going to put a real estate sign, you, the city, are telling them what has to be on the contract.
Okay.
So what we have to do to be constitutional is not regulate real estate signs per se, but just signs that are temporary in nature, and they can say anything they want. So that's really the crux of the matter. You don't have too many, as other ordinances I've read, but like a wall sign, that doesn't tell you what's going to be on the sign, does it? It just tells you where it's attached. A real estate sign tells you what has to be on the sign. A directional sign tells you what has to be on the sign, direction. So we're going to go through the ordinance and find those offensive signs and try to make them less offensive, where you can't tell somebody, here's what has to be on the sign. So you don't have that many types of signs in terms of definition and regulation that I've seen in other communities, but that's the approach we would take.
So that's basically what you were worried about in our sign ordinance. Okay, so is that basically what we're going to try and work on with the sign ordinance, or that's what we're trying to figure out?
That's one aspect of it, I think.
But we should still look at it and see if we see anything else.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If I may, I've also had discussions regarding splitting the HC district off into a separate sign ordinance district. We've got a lot of requests in that district for pole signs. I don't know what we call them, the really tall ones. And so we could at least explore that as an option, because all those businesses want them.
I'm all for them. It makes them much easier to see from the expressway. When I'm traveling, if I want to find a hotel or something, you have to drive up and down and hope you see this little sign that's a ways off the ground, and I never did understand the reason to take away the pole signs in the first place.
So that's why I'm saying, since we're going to be looking at the content part of the site, we might as well look at, the other. It doesn't hurt anything for us to have the discussion on sign ordinances, because that's exactly what I'm saying, is that, Perry's talking about signs that are sticking out, you're talking about full signs, talking about maybe changing the highway commercial. Since we got it on the table, let's look at it.
If I remember right, because Carline was against pole signs, and I think we had a 4-3 vote on whether we were going to allow pole signs or not, and we voted no. So it was almost a half and a half, but we were going based on.
But right, it was a bigger district, and so that's what Mr. Womack's saying, is if we could do the sign ordinance for that in highway commercial,
Yeah.
where it makes more sense.
But I don't